think I made a mistake. I read 6 books this month, and one of them was a solid 2-star. It's not a 1 because I did finish it, but let's just say I need to be way more intentional with the books that I'm reading in 2026. I cannot be just taking the blind recommendations off Book Talk anymore. I feel like the books that I've been reading this month have been kind of hopping all over the map. We've got some dark romance, some YA, some fantasy in there, and even a couple thrillers. Some of them were only 2 stars, like some of them are a serious flop, and we did have a couple 5 stars. Actually, no, just 1 5-star. So there's a lot to unpack. Let's get into it. The first book that I read this month was None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. So with the author of this book, I have read a couple of her books. First off, I read Then She Was Gone. That was a 5-star read for me. Then I read Don't Let Him In. That was a 2-star read for me. I almost fell off the wagon there. Decided to give her one more chance. With that last chance, I decided to read None of This Is True. This was a 5-star read for me again. So I really don't know if Don't Let Him In was an outlier or if it's like some of the books are a hit and some of the books are a miss. I was going to read The Family Upstairs, but then it didn't pique my interest anymore. I heard people say how good it was, but I also heard people say that the amount of characters in it really threw them off. So I ended up unhauling that book without reading it, and now I'm sitting here wondering, was it a good one? Now, what did I like about None of This Is True? First of all, it was fast-paced. This is the number 1 must-have for any thrillers that I read. I am also interested in the audiobook of this book. I read the physical copy, and it does revolve around a podcast or like a Netflix documentary type of thing. And that aspect of the book reminded me of Listen for the Lie, which I also gave 5 stars, and I hear the audiobook for that was amazing. On the side of like the Netflix documentary aspect of the book, I did not like the visual descriptions of the reenactments. That annoyed me a lot. Like, if I have to say something negative about the book, that is it. I did not like these descriptions. I thought they were just really annoying. One of the things that I really like about this book is it had you questioning what was real the whole way through. Not in the sense of like, did that actually happen? More in the sense of like, who is the one lying? And I think that is a great aspect for a thriller. So what happens in this book? The plot of this book is we follow 2 birthday twins. They're not really twins, they are just 2 women who were born at the same hospital on the same exact day. They run into each other at the pub, totally by accident. They both just happen to be there with 2 separate groups of people celebrating their birthdays. First off, we have Josie. She is there with her husband. He's a bit of an older gentleman, and this is not really their scene, but they're trying something new. Then we have Alex. She is there with a group of friends, with her sisters, and with her husband as well. They are not really noticing anybody around them. To be honest, it's mainly Josie notices Alex. She sees Alex go to the washroom, and she excuses herself from the table and goes to meet her there. In the washroom, she confronts her being like, hey, we're actually birthday twins. And they do like a little small talk, nothing too crazy. But Josie is thinking about this woman nonstop. She cannot get her off her mind, and she manages to find her on social media. It turns out that Alex actually runs like a podcast about women who better themselves. Women who have been in like a tight situation, whether that's like an abusive situation or just poverty or just really down on their luck, and how they spun their lives around and where they are now. A success story. She follows success stories of women and interviews them in the podcasts. So Josie contacts Alex. She kind of awkwardly forces a run-in on her, and she pitches in a new idea. Like, she tells her, actually, no, she doesn't even tell her right off the bat. She tells her, I work at this alteration shop. Come find me during these times. I have something to talk about with you. And then when she goes, then she pitches that she's like, hey, I have a new idea for one of your podcast episodes. And Alex is kind of like, okay, this is a little weird. Like, normally she approaches people. They don't normally approach her. But she's kind of reached a level of success that this isn't entirely alarming. So Josie says, what about if you follow a woman who wants to change her life around, like doing a day-by-day documentary of it? And Alex kind of at a point where she's like, okay, people are maybe sick of seeing the same copy-paste of my usual podcasts. Like, maybe this could be a route that we could explore. So she takes the bite, and they start seeing each other on a more regular basis. Alex is learning about Josie's life and like her upbringing, and there are some little bits and pieces that just seem a little odd. But again, Alex isn't there to judge. So the further along we get, and the more Josie forces herself into Alex's life, the more unsettling it all becomes. And they don't really know how much is Josie telling the truth and how much is she lying. So after I read a thriller, I had to mix it up a little bit. I went into a romantasy vibe. Not only that, I went for a really big one. We went for Diary Bound. This one here, I really almost DNF'd that book, and I was sitting there thinking, I'm really not sure if this is it. So I followed the rule. With any sort of fantasy book, you always need to give it at least 100 pages. Like, I understand world building can be a little complicated, so I like to give at least 100 pages, establish it all, and then let's see where we go from there. Did this book need to be 600 pages? No, it definitely did not. I really found the beginning very slow and unoriginal, if I'm going to be honest. However, I am really glad that I stuck it out with this book because at the end of the book, it had one of my favorite plot twists. I can't tell you, but I just love when they throw that into a book, and so I'm excited to see where it goes from there. But with this book, it did feel kind of like a recipe or following a formula. It had no business being 600 pages, and it was a little bit predictable, but I did like the plot twist at the end. So one of the things that this author does really well is this book revolves around direwolves, and the whole pack mentality and the bonding is done really well. I think the author did it much better than some of the other books that I've read that revolve around this subject. So, what is the 600 pages of this book about, actually? This one, it follows around Maren Cooper. She's our main character. She does not have a dad in the picture. Her mom is mentally ill, not doing well. Some days she doesn't even recognize her own daughters. She needs full-time care. She also has a younger sister. Her younger sister is her reason for living. Maren fights in the fighting rings to get money. She does laundry during the day. Everything she does is to give her sister a better life. So when her little sister goes missing in the middle of the night, Maren goes crazy. She is trying to find her the best that she can, and she decides that how is she going to find her? She is going to leave everything behind, join the military to go to the front lines. Here's a little backstory. They think that the people who are taking the kids are actually the opposing enemy, the enemy in the war. And so the idea would be her sister would be across enemy lines in the war. So if she goes in the military, gets taken to the front line, she can go across the line into the enemy's territory, grab her sister, and come back. That's the game plan. In order to do that, she needs to get through boot camp, essentially. So she leaves behind her mom and her fiance, who he just works in the castle as a messenger. So he's just a side character, but he just sets her up to join boot camp. But she's leaving him behind to go and find her sister. She tells her fiance to help look after her mom in addition to her neighbors. And she's going to take as little as she can. She wants to be in and out and quickest time possible. When she gets there, it turns out that every couple of years or every, I don't know how many years, maybe 10 years, they do a bonding with the direwolves, and they send all the recruits up a mountain and try and bond them to the direwolves, see if they match. Just because you match doesn't mean that you're going to live, but it means that you're not going to be a regular soldier. So Maren goes to the top. She gets to the top. She does not want to bond with a direwolf. She is actively saying in her head, do not choose me. And so apparently if you do that, it's supposed to keep you safe. But very few people do that, because if you are one of the bonded, you get to live more of a luxurious lifestyle and then move your whole family up to the rich area, essentially. The bonded are considered special. Everyone wants to be one except for Maren. However, Maren, of course, ends up being one. But this is kind of a twist in her plans, because how is she going to get to the front lines when now she needs to go through this whole other training course with her direwolf? So our whole book is essentially get me to my sister. She needs to fight through this training program so she can find her sister, and she's doing everything she can in her free time to figure out more information about her sister, because there is more resources available at the training camp. So overall, I did give this book 4 stars. It did keep me entertained. It did not need to be 600 pages, but it was, and I made it through. The slow beginning could be a toss-up for some of you. If you're not into that, it might be hard to get through the other 500 pages. But I did enjoy it, and there were some really good aspects to the book. Next up, why not another thriller? In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. This one. Ashley Winstead is the author. I read another one of her books, the controversial book of 2025. That was This Book Will Bury Me. Really enjoyed it, gave it 5 stars. This one, not so much. I only gave it 3 stars. I just thought, yes, it was entertaining. Yes, it had a similar writing style to it, but I just felt the plot was lacking. The thing about this book is it gave point the finger around the table vibe, and whoever's left is the one who is actually guilty. I don't like those books. They don't really feel that creative. It didn't, like the plot twists in this book, they weren't entirely unexpected. Nothing caught me off guard. I was not sitting there with a gaping mouth. Maybe my bar has just gotten kind of high for thrillers because I've read quite a few, but this one just wasn't as good as her last, and I only gave it 3 stars. Also, I do not really understand the relevance of the title. In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. Where is the knife coming into play? Because the body that we're talking about was killed with scissors. So I don't really understand that. Maybe that's just over my head. Please enlighten me in the comments if you know where this title came from. Okay, so the plot for this one, we are following Jessica Miller. Jessica Miller has a serious case of, I gotta be number one, everyone needs to praise me, everyone needs to love me. Here's the thing, she is not that girl. She is not that girl, even though she's always wanted to be that girl. So she is headed back to her college reunion. She wants to be the one that everyone's jaw is dropping, and she's dyed her hair a new bottle blonde, and she's ready to strut through that tent, because it's in like a reception tent. But here's the thing. When she was in college, they had this group of friends. I think there was about 6 of them, and one of them died. So she's going back, and of course there's like messy history with some of these people. Like, they were really close. She dated one, she kind of hooked up with another, and it's just she wants to impress them, and of course right off the bat it's not going to plan. It turns out the friend that died, first of all, nobody found out who killed her. However, she had a little brother, and he has made it his absolute mission to figure out who killed his sister. No judgment here. You deserve closure. However, not everyone's feeling that way, and the friends are kind of uneasy because he's sitting there thinking, I know who did it. I've done like nothing but research this for the last 10 years. This is my whole life, and it's one of you 5. So he starts like kind of harassing them a little bit, and then the friends start turning on each other, and everyone who had secrets, the secrets are now out of the bag. So we are trying to find out who killed the friend. Her name's Heather, by the way. Who killed Heather? And that's where we go from there. There's quite a few friends. So it gets a little confusing at the beginning. Of course, everyone has a name, and then like everyone has a nickname on top of that too. So that part, it takes a little while to understand and just kind of grasp who is who and where are the dynamics. But we kind of show like a jump back and forth situation of like, they'll point the finger and be like, but where were you at this time? And then it jumps back to show what was happening exactly at that time. And then it jumps forward again to the present. And that's kind of how it goes. But it wasn't shocking enough for me. It's just okay. So I just gave it 3 stars. It's not one that when you're looking for thriller recommendations, this does not come to mind. I kind of reserve 4 stars and up for like my recommendations. 5 stars means I absolutely love it. 4 stars is like, hey, like I would recommend this. It comes to mind sometimes. 3 is like, I didn't hate it, but like it's not the top of my roster. Okay, the next 2 books, I was actually reading them at the same time. I don't do this. This was part of my 24-hour like readathon type of thing where you do with the stopwatch, not like 24 hours straight. I could not do that. I figured that out the hard way. Doing the stopwatch challenge was hard enough. So the first book that I was reading at that time was The Fallen City. This one is the first book I've read from this author. I think it's YA fantasy. Either that or it's fantasy, but I think it was YA. Like it was pretty innocent, I think. I can't think of anything too gory or anything like that in it. But this one I gave a 3 star. This one was very Romeo and Juliet vibes and Greek mythology, but like not actually Greek mythology. It's Greek mythology, but make it your own. So they made their own gods and their own backstories and their own legends. And then they praise the gods. The gods have a huge importance in it, but I feel like there was so much background on the gods, and maybe they'll tie into it later, but I didn't really see the relevance to the storyline. There's a lot of world building, and I think it's a little minimal on while they praise the gods, they aren't really that much of a factor in the story. However, I did get a little bit lost sometimes in the world building, but there is a legend at the beginning which breaks down like the gods and what they serve or who praises who. This book does have a dual POV. In this dual POV, we're jumping between Luca and Maris. It goes dual POV and then also goes present and past tense. I feel like that kind of hurt the chemistry of the characters. The only time we really see like a relationship between the two would be in the past, and then it jumps forward to the present, and like for majority of the book they don't even communicate with each other, like they don't even really see each other. So I feel like jumping back and forth made it a little jumpy and cut that potential relationship bond with the reader and Luca and Maris as well. Okay, so what went down in this book? We have got Luca. He is from the streets, like the lower city they call it, and he is technically the nephew of one of the magistrates. They have like this whole council, and they have like a leader of the council, and the magistrates are members of the council. So our two main characters are both a descendant of one of the magistrates. So we have Maris, who is the daughter of one of the powerful houses, and one of the other sides, we've got Luca. He is a nephew of one of the others. His uncle is dying, which is why they brought Luca into the picture. Normally, it goes to like a son or daughter, but his uncle can't have kids. He's tried for many years, now he's dying, and so in a desperate attempt to keep his position of power in his bloodline, he's brought in Luca, a man from the lower city, and he looks like it. Apparently, you can physically tell money and not money. You can try and hide it, but I guess there's just distinguishing features. So he's being taught how to take his uncle's position. And on the other side, we have Maris, who's being taught the exact same thing for her mother. They meet at one of their, I think they call them like a harvest. It's pretty much like a party to the gods of the month. Like they do one every month, and one's really important. And Maris's mother is hosting. So they run in, they see each other, and his uncle straight up like, we need to marry you off as like an alliance with one of the other magistrates. Not that one. So here's the thing. The uncle and the mom are on different sides, and they're both very influential. However, they are like butting heads. They do not get along. They literally stand for opposite causes. So he tells his nephew, not that one. So of course, she's forbidden. She's the one that he wants. Turns out they actually get along. They're looking around the circle and being like, this is silly. We could run this so much better. And so they kind of like rally together to be like, oh, when we take over, this is what we're going to do. And it turns out Luca is actually also friends with the leader's son. So they get along as well. They've got like a nice trio going, mainly the two boys. And then like Maris is just in love with Luca. But the three of them all have the same values in the sense that they don't like where things are being led right now, and they'd like to turn it around. A lot of complicated politics happen. As a result of that, we see Luca switching to a leader of the rebellion. Well, him and his, I forget what his name is, but like the brother of, the son of the leader, okay? Him and Luca, they consider themselves like brothers. They're not literally brothers, it's just like brother bond. Anyway, they become leaders of the rebellion. So then it becomes forbidden, extra forbidden, Romeo Juliet vibes, because Maris is still with her mother on the regular side. So they are at war, and we're trying to not kill each other, but at the same time, they are literally with each other's enemies. So that is our struggle, power struggle, love struggle. We follow the journey on how to make it through. I was under the impression this was a standalone novel. It is definitely not. Based on the ending, it definitely is not. However, I don't think I'm going to continue it. It was just a 3-star for me. I have many other series that I'm far more invested in. This one just didn't hit the mark for me, and I'm wondering if maybe I should have started with another one of this author's books first. I've never read anything by her, and it wasn't the writing style by any means. I didn't have anything against that. It was just more the topic just wasn't really hitting it for me. So I might try one of her other ones, but I think I'm going to leave this one as a DNF for the series. However, I will say, beautiful art on the inside. Beautiful. It's a very pretty book, but unfortunately, that doesn't dictate whether or not I continue the series. Okay, next up is my least favorite book of the month, and probably that I've read in a little while. Like, It's tourist season. This one is very specific for the readers. Like, you need to be really into this stuff to enjoy it. It is a dark romance book. The idea is two serial killers, but where they draw the line on when it's okay to kill was always kind of gray for me. Like, they acted like they didn't like that the other killed, but at the same time, I think it kind of like they liked it. I don't know. It was kind of confusing in that sense. It is very similar to the author's other book, other series actually, of Blackbird and Butcher. I read one and ended it there, and I'm going to be doing that the same with this series. Like, this is very similar, the two series, in the terms of the vibes. However, this one had more conflict and chemistry in it. I only gave this 2 stars. I will not be continuing the series. It was a little too dark and twisty for me. If you're into that, power to you, but I was not. There was like a needle scene where I was sitting there like, okay, skip that. There was just a couple things where if you're skipping parts of the book because it makes you uncomfortable, it's not for you. I feel like her books are kind of fitting a mold. If you really like that mold, this is perfect for you. However, I don't think there's enough of a difference between the 2 books of hers that I've read for me to read another one of her books. Both of them were kind of on the same serial killer aspects. I think that's really her thing. That's okay, but it's not mine. So this is where I end with this author. So what happened in this book? We have 2 characters. We have Harper and we have Nolan. Nolan has made it his mission to kill the person who killed his brother. Here's the thing. He and his brother were part of a hit and run many years ago. His brother died. He went through like serious physical therapy and he's okay. However, now he's taken to killing as like a side hobby, like a little bit of revenge vigilante situation. He is trying to kill everyone who was in the car that night that killed his brother. He has managed to do that successfully until he's only got one left, and that is Harper. So he's moved to Harper's City. He's scoping it out. He kind of like stalks her a little bit, I guess. Then he finds out. Well, actually, he comes up to her in a coffee shop not knowing who she is, and then he finds out, oh shoot, that's Harper. He's actually kind of falling for this girl, and then he realizes, I'm gonna have to kill her. On that side, Harper's no better. She also does kill. She has taken it upon herself to be the vigilante of her tourist city. Apparently, there you have like a very spooky Halloweeny vibe, like like what is it? Carnage Carnival, I think, is the name of the city. No, I don't think that's it. Let me look. Cape Carnage. There we go. That's the name of their town. Lots of tourists come. They stay for a little bit. Some people get a little carried away and cause disturbances. And so Harper takes it upon herself to kill those people. And then she shoves them in like a wood chipper. But she finds out that Nolan's trying to kill her. And well, then it's kind of like a game of chess. One makes a move on the other, trying to kill him. Or like try to prevent them from killing, take some of their supplies, stuff like that. And then one gets blackmailed, and it's just a whole back and forth situation while they slowly fall in love. 2 serial killers falling in love. If that's your dark and twisty vibe, you will enjoy this book. I will be stopping here, though. So I was reading Tourist Season at the same time as Fallen City. After the tourist season, I really needed something a little bit more innocent. All In by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This one is the 3rd in a series. And it definitely felt like it. It felt like a filler episode. I only gave it 3 stars. I actually have loved this series. Not as much as The Inheritance Game, which is also a series by this author. But this one was just like a filler. So let's give the background on the plot. We've got our team of teenage criminal minds people, pretty much. They help the FBI. They're teenagers that help the FBI solve cases. Originally, it was only cold cases. Now we've moved on to current day cases. So it turns out we have a killer on the loose in Las Vegas. They have managed to kill 4 people in 4 days. Now, each of these teenagers have like a different skill set. Well, 2 of them have the same, but otherwise they all have different skill sets. They need to find this killer before they make another kill. And on day 5, no killing happens. No victims, no bodies, nothing. So we have to depend on our numbers, girl, to figure out what is the pattern. It's essentially like a Criminal Minds episode. If you really like those, you'd like it. However, being the 3rd in a series, it should have had way more relationship development. And it really, like, 2/3 of the book was revolving around this case. Maybe even a little bit more than that. You only got like a small glimpse right at the beginning. I think it was like one of the first chapters on our main character, Cassie. And then at the end, we get a little bit more of like where the plot is going. But I think there's only maybe one more book in this series. I'm not sure about that. But there was so much more potential, and I felt this was such a filler. That being said, it is super fast paced, and it was a nice, refreshing read after reading such a dark romance before that. So I did give it 3 stars. I still love her writing style, and I will still be continuing the series, but this one was disappointing to say the least. There is so much more big plot potential happening. It just didn't happen until the last 50 pages. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. If you made it to the end, please comment down below. What book are you currently reading? You can like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.